Hi, I'm Megan, and this is Josh.
We're the co-founders of Future of Faith. We started Future of Faith because we believe strongly that the only pathway forward for the church to gain trust and credibility is through relationships rooted in listening. All of the data confirm this. But it's one thing to call for a relational approach, and it's another thing to try and do relational ministry with dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of people. You cannot build an effective ministry around having coffee with 100 people a week. You would be way overcaffeinated. But you can build a ministry around having coffee with the 10 people who really need your attention right now. Other professionals like community organizers, fundraisers, and salespeople manage hundreds or thousands of relationships in order to do their work. And we believe you can too, as long as you have the right tools.
Those professions Josh just mentioned don't try to hold all of those relationships in their heads, and they don't treat all of their connections the same way. They use systems and processes that help them do their critical relational work.
When I was in graduate school, I had the amazing opportunity to witness some community organizers at work for a research project I was a part of. And at the end of one of these meetings, I saw this woman open her notebook and take out a few sheets of paper which were covered in tiny blue ink and all colors of highlighter. When I asked her what it was, she said that it was her system. And what a system it was. She had purchased graph paper, made a spreadsheet to track every conversation with every person in her community, including the address, extended family members, attendance, and notes about their conversations. Then she color-coded the dates of each interaction according to what kind of follow-up was needed. This, she told me, was how she kept track of an entire neighborhood on just 2 sheets of paper.
Oh my.
As she said to me, I need to know who needs me. And at my age, I'll never remember it all. I feel that.
Same.
This incredible example of how to honor individuals has always stuck with me. And it's this approach that is at the heart of all the sacred listening tools we build at Future of Faith.
We believe that when used in a systematic way, these tools help to address one of the key issues in relational ministry. How do you do relational ministry at scale? How do you know who needs you when you have dozens or hundreds of people to keep track of?
In this video, we want to pull back the curtain, show you how we build sacred listening tools so that you might be able to use them more effectively in your own community, or maybe even make your own from scratch.
We're convinced that relational approaches to building large, thriving, and sustainable ministries are possible with the right processes. And while we don't think we have the only solution, we believe in the science and data behind sacred listening tools, and we've also seen it work with our own eyes.
Our theory of sacred listening is rooted in 3 distinct bodies of thought. We combine theology, just a little bit, we're no theologians, some communication theory, and of course, sociology to help us create tools that consistently have the same approach, but reflect your local community. And the starting place for all of this is a fundamental theological posture we call Imago Dei. We believe that we're all made in the image of the divine, and that every interaction is an opportunity to experience God in this world. When we take the approach that even listening to my 14-year-old go on and on about Minecraft, then everything about those interactions changes. The key is coming into these moments with a particular intention. If you had the opportunity to talk to God right now, you'd likely want to have some idea for how that conversation should go.
And that's how all of our sacred listening tools start. Step 1 is set an intention for your time together. This can be done in a variety of ways, from actually writing it down, to a silent prayer, to mutually constructing the intention with the person you're with. We like to find a way to set intentions in the tools we offer that reflects the values we're trying to convey in the rest of the tool. But regardless of what you do or how you do it, it's critical that we respect the divine in each other and set an intention for the interaction. One of my favorite examples of intention setting is from a youth minister we built a sacred listening tool with recently. She starts their time together by having the group read through their community covenant.
I love community covenants.
It's a beautiful set of expectations like speak lovingly and be yourself and celebrate others. And then they share a small treat and talk about why it's a sacred space. This ritual helps set the tone for their time together every time.
Second, communication theory tells us that effective listening is really all about alignment. Are you listening in a way that makes the speaker feel heard? This is going to look different for different people across generations, across different cultures, coming from different backgrounds. So you need to do the work to understand what will make the person you care about, the person that you have just determined is created in the image of the divine, feel as though they are being heard. This involves everything from body language and feedback to your choice of medium. Some people will want to talk, others will need to text. Still others will want to make art or write things down like in a journal. Think about how they need you to show up as a listener.
When we fail to align our listening with the person we care about, it sends a message that this is really about you and not them. And that's the last thing you want. In this part, it's critical that you ask good questions and record information. This might be the hardest part of the entire thing, and it's what we spend the most time on in our own tools. Asking the right questions and then having the discipline to record that information somewhere sounds easy enough, but can be very hard in practice. The reality is that there's simply no way you can do relational ministry with dozens or even hundreds of people if you're not recording these conversations and pieces of information in some way. Nobody can hold it all in their heads. In our own tools, we use everything from copying emojis from text messages to using one 5x7 note card to map relationships, or just simply keeping notes. There's a myriad of ways to record information. Just make sure it happens.
I used to think that taking information down in some kind of a systematic way was like a barrier to authentic relationship, that it would send a message that I didn't care enough to remember. But I realized very clearly one day that it had the opposite effect when a student caught me taking notes about our conversation and said, "Why are you writing this stuff down? Nobody writes down the stuff I say." She said, "You're the professor, we write down what you say." Well, I told her this is important to me and I wanted to remember it. And so that's why I was writing it down. And it changed everything about our relationship from that day forward. So find yourself a spreadsheet or a Google Doc or the Notes app on your phone, or get a CRM and get to work writing things down.
Lastly, we bring in the magic that makes sacred listening tools work.
Sociology.
Sociology is about helping us to see patterns in human behavior so we can better understand if what we're seeing from someone is unique to them at the moment in time, or if it's part of some larger trend in the culture in their own life. This third step to sacred listening fundamentally relies on the first two and involves looking for recurring themes or patterns in the information you captured in the previous step. But we're not just looking for patterns that are interesting, we're looking for things that allow us to design some kind of follow-up. For example, maybe you just completed our text to connect listening exercise, and in the information you recorded, you noticed that Tuesday was often a very hard day for one of the people that you're connecting with. Is there something about their life or in the life of the people in their school or organization that makes Tuesdays particularly difficult? What might you do with this information to effectively demonstrate the love of God to them? I'm sure you can already begin to think of a million ways you might follow up.
Or maybe you've mapped relationships using the note card exercise Megan referred to earlier. You find that maybe 2 of the kids in your youth group don't have relationships that overlap with anyone else or any trusted relationships at all. How could you follow up in a way that builds community? Who else could you involve rather that could sort of build this culture of community now that you have this critical piece of information? This would be too hard to keep track of in your own head.
These 3 elements, imago Dei, alignment, and pattern recognition, make up our approach to sacred listening. Every one of our sacred listening tools walks through each of these 3 components as we set intentions, ask questions and record information, and then look for patterns so we can follow up effectively.
As we've been developing these tools, we've even had the opportunity to watch them in practice. This is not just a theoretical exercise for us, and the results have been inspiring.
That's right. I recently had the privilege of sitting down with a youth minister in our community as we used a sacred listening tool we developed together for his weekly small group. He began with a poem to set intentions, which resonated with one of the young people, though she didn't share that immediately. Then during the ask and record phase in their Lectio Divina style guided reading of a Bible passage, the youth minister asked reflective questions like, what word made you think about your own life? And how does that word make you feel? To model vulnerability, he shared his own answers first. And this encouraged the young person to open up about a difficult time she'd been having with a family member. And then her moment of vulnerability had a ripple effect, encouraging others in the group to open up, offer support, and share their own stories. The youth minister took notes in a designated journal and followed up with the young person in a few days, connecting her with another youth minister who had a similar experience. This small group has stayed together and even grown to become a close-knit community where each person feels heard and valued.
It's amazing, and I love this story. It's a good example of the way that you can not just have one-on-one relationships, but start to foster a culture of relationships.
Exactly.
And we're convinced that these relationships are really the key to rebuilding trust where it has been lost and revitalizing the church for future generations. With the sacred listening framework and a bit of your own imagination, you can even build your own tools. And if you do, we'd love to hear from you about what you've tried and how it's going. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can find me at josh@futureoffaith.org and Megan is at megan@futureoffaith.org.